Okay, just before we start to puree this garlic, I just want you to orientate with what I'm talking about. So what we have right here is this large piece is a bulb, and these smaller pieces are, cloves. So if we look at the bulb, the clove is, here's a clove right here. Recipes will call for, a clove of garlic, one of these, and they're not always the same size. So if we look at this one, that looks relatively larger than this one over here. So I guess the standard that I use is that we're going to use, if a recipe calls for a clove of garlic, so if we have 1 clove of garlic, that's going to be represented by 5 milliliters of garlic puree. Okay, so if a recipe calls for garlic, or a clove of garlic, put in 5 milliliters of pureed garlic. Okay, here we go. We want to puree some garlic. So let's take that bulb and we're going to break that apart, and let's get a clove out of there. So what we want to do next is to get that skin off. So we can take our French knife and put it parallel to the cutting board and smash that down. We just want to break the clove a little bit, and that will allow us to get rid of the skin much easier. So once we get them all busted down a little bit, we can peel that skin off. Right. Try and keep the cutting board clean. I noticed that I got some of the skin on the cutting board, and I don't want that getting into the food once we start chopping. So make sure the cutting board's clean. Let's get rid of all that skin. What we want to do next is look for the root end. So we got the root end of the garlic clove. Trim those off. It's not very appetizing, so we want to trim off all the root ends, and those roots can go in the garbage. We don't need them for anything. Okay, so we got them all done. Next, we're going to take our garlic and we're going to roughly chop it with our French knife in a rocking motion, and we want to keep going over that until it's relatively small, and then that makes the job easier when we start to puree it. So we're going to go over that a few times. Right, again with the rocking motion. I'm going to chop it down pretty small. Okay, so we're about here. Now what I'm going to do is to break that even smaller. What I need to do is take some salt, and I'm going to put some salt in there. And with the French knife, I'm going to push on the tip. And again, the knife is parallel to the board. So I'm just pushing on the tip and the knife is parallel, and what I'm doing is I'm working the garlic into the salt, and the salt will help break it down. So you don't want to do the whole thing at once. Notice I'm not taking all of the garlic at once. I'm just doing a little bit at a time and just kind of working my way through it. And you just keep going over that over and over again. And eventually you'll end up with some kind of paste like this, right? So we're just going to keep working that until we can't see any more chunks of garlic, and it pretty much looks like one. And then there we go. That's going to give you your garlic puree. You can use that for whatever the recipe calls for. No big chunks of garlic sticking out. All done. That's the garlic puree.